Hey everyone, welcome to a Friday Tea with EC. Thanks for sticking with me for the last couple of weeks while I've been off focusing on illustration and not on telling you stories. But I have a very cool story for you today. And it's not a folklore story, it is in fact the earliest version we know of the Cinderella story that we're also familiar with. And it's from China. It's the Chinese Cinderella and it's called Yexian. Well, it is, I apologize for my pronunciation if I'm getting that wrong, which I quite possibly am. But it's been translated a few times into English over the last century by a few different people with a few different pronunciations. So I'm going to go with Yexian today. Now, this is a fascinating story, and I'm going to tell it to you in just a moment. So go grab yourself a cup of tea. I was really lucky to be approached by Alyssa Curtain recently, who is a fantastic storyteller and deeply involved with fairy tales, and asked to illustrate Yexian for her. I really enjoyed this, and I'm going to share the illustrations, which I'm particularly happy with you on the weekend through social media, website, the usual stuff. But in the meantime, let's have a story. So once upon a time, at least 2,000 years ago, deep in southern China, in a mountainous region, there lived a village full of people who lived largely in caves. And one of them was Yexian, a young woman whose father had unfortunately just recently passed away, and her stepmother and her stepsister, as we are very familiar with, began to treat Yexian very poorly. Now, Yexian had always been quite skilled and her father had appreciated her skill, but they sent her out to collect water and to collect firewood and the most unskilled jobs in the most dangerous parts of the nearby woods and cliffs that they could think of. And Yexian was very unhappy. At night she slept by the fire, and in the morning a bucket was thrown at her and she was told to go and collect some water from a village half a day's walk away. And one day Yexian took some time to step off the path down to a little stream to wash herself. And as she was doing so, she saw a little tiny fish swim up to her. It had whiskers that reminded her of her father. And she spoke to the fish and felt like it understood her. And when it was time for her to go home, she looked at the bucket that she had brought to bring the water, and she looked at the fish, and she asked the fish if it would like to come with her, and she felt that it said it would. And so she scooped it up into the bucket, and when she got home, she hid it in an old bowl with a chip out of it under her bed, and she fed it little bits of bread every day. Now the fish quickly got too big for the bowl, and then it quickly got too big for the next bowl, and eventually Yexian realized that she was going to need to find a safe place for it where it could grow. And so one quiet day she slipped it out of her room and she took it to a pond at the bottom of a cliff face. And there she came back and she visited the fish whenever she could away from her chores, and fed it and talked to it and was friends with it. And the fish, which was of course a magical fish and glowed golden, grew and grew until it was about 3 meters long, so quite a giant fish. Unfortunately, Yexian's sister followed her one day and saw her talking to the fish and was envious of Yexian's close connection with this fish. And when she told them her mother, Yexian's stepmother was furious. What was Yexian doing going out and talking to this golden fish instead of just getting on with her chores? And the next day when she sent Yexian far away to collect the water, she told her to leave her ragged old coat at home. And the stepmother dressed up as Yexian, and she went to the pond where the fish was. And when the fish came up to the sandy bank to talk to Yexian, it was the stepmother, and she cut off its head. Poor Yexian. She was so devastated when she went to the pond and saw the fish's head lying on the bank. And as she wept and wailed, a spirit appeared to her from the sky, all glowing, and said to her, "The bones of the fish are magical and will give you whatever you wish for because a powerful spirit is inside those bones. You will need to collect them up out of where they have been cast away and keep them all together." So Yexian collected up all the bones and she spoke to them, and she felt like her friend the fish that the bones were still communicating with her and they gave her what she wished for. And she wished for very little things that would keep her comfortable, just managed to get through her difficult life in her difficult, challenging situation. But one day it was time for a festival. And Yexian's stepmother, of course, said to Yexian, you can stay here and guard the fruit trees because I'm taking my daughter to the festival and we don't want you to outshine her. No sooner had they left than Yexian went to the bones and wished for something that she could wear to the festival because she desperately wanted to attend. You can imagine she has nothing joyful in her life. Her life is constant drudgery and chores. She just wanted to go to the festival. And no sooner had she wished it than she was dressed in a cloak of kingfisher feathers and she had golden shoes on her feet that sparkled with little scales like a fish. But the bones told her that she mustn't lose either of the shoes or the magic would go away. So Yexian went to the festival and she had a wonderful time, but after she'd been there for a while, she saw her sister looking at her and the sister tugged on the mother's sleeve and said, "Doesn't that beautiful woman over there look just like our Yexian?" And so Yexian quickly turned and she ran away. She ran all the way home and she ran so fast that one of the slippers fell off her feet and was lost. And when she got home, she was dressed back in her rags and she just had the other slipper, which she hid away. And even though she wept and called and spoke and entreated the bones, they wouldn't talk to her anymore because she had lost one of the shoes. But the story doesn't end there because the shoe was picked up by someone in the village and passed along hand to hand until eventually it came to a king. And this king was rather greedy, as kings tend to be, and he thought one gold slipper is great, but 2 gold slippers would be better. And so he put the gold slipper in an enclosed place in a garden and he sent out the word to try and find the other golden slipper. And in the meantime, he made everyone around him try on the golden slipper, but every time someone tried it on, it shrank an inch, so it didn't fit anybody at all. Now Yexian heard about the golden slipper being kept, and she wanted to put them back together so that she could again talk to her friend, to the spirit from the fish bones. And so she snuck in one evening and tried to steal the golden slipper back. But the king caught her, and when he demanded she put it on, and of course bring out the second golden slipper, once again, she was dressed in finery like a spirit from heaven. And the king said, "Well, I'll take you, thank you very much." And he made her his wife. I would love to say that this story has a happy ending. It doesn't. The king was a greedy bastard, as we all know. And so he used the fish bones to demand anything and everything he wanted for a year until the fish bones stopped giving him anything at all. And then he buried them by the bank of a river. And we don't know what happened to Yexian, but one day the fish bones were washed out to sea and away, and poor Yexian was left all alone. I can hope that she had some lovely handmaidens by that point and the king wasn't her only company. Now, I really suggest you go and grab Alyssa's book when it comes out with my illustrations because it has many different retellings of Yexian in it. It gives you the overview of the various interpretations into English from the last 100 years. And it also tells you, things about the motifs, the background, the history of this story, who wrote it down, where in China it came from. It's fascinating. I can't recommend it highly enough. I will link in the comments under this video to where you can order it from. And I will see you soon for more folklore. Bye everyone.